By Sin I Rise, Part 2. Sins of the Fathers, Book 2. Written by Cora Reilly. Narrated by Win Ross and Kai Kennicott. Chapter 1. Maddox. A sense of uninhibited freedom took hold of me as I drove away from my prison of the last few days. I hadn't really believed Vitiello would allow me to leave, even if Marcella had asked him to grant me mercy, considering he wasn't in the business of granting mercy. My heart clenched thinking of her. The last few days with only glimpses of her had been torture. I miss this woman, more than I'd ever admit to anyone, even her. My feelings for her, the decisions I'd made for her, they had taken me by surprise and still shocked me. Now I had things to settle before I could head back to her. Otherwise, my mind would always be adrift, and I wanted my sole focus on her when I was with her. I wanted us to work out. I'd given up too much for it not to work out. I headed for the first hiding place in a park near our old clubhouse in New Jersey, ignoring the bouts of dizziness. As expected, the teak box buried in the soil beneath a bush was empty. Whoever had survived the attack had been heading there first, too. I hoped it had been Gray. He needed the money. He'd yet to become as resourceful, or rather ruthless, as the rest of us, and thus would have a harder time getting money by other means. Mounting the bike again, I checked 2 more spots within the city bounds before I headed for a junkyard about 30 minutes outside the city. It had been Cody's, which was why I had avoided the place. He'd used it to launder drug money. I didn't have the keys for the gates, so I had no choice but to park the bike in front of them and climb over the fence topped with barbed wire. The second my feet hit the ground on the other side, enraged barks sounded, and soon after, 2 Rottweilers darted out behind the small house that served as a maintenance building. I didn't know these dogs, and worse, they didn't know me. They were most likely from one of Earl's litters. Fuck, I muttered. I didn't have any weapons on me. From the look of it, the way their ribs protruded, the dogs hadn't been fed in a while. Cody probably hadn't taken good care of them even before he'd been captured. He always said hungry dogs were the best guards. The 2 massive Rottweilers charging at me seemed to see me as their next meal. I stormed toward the first heap of crushed cars and climbed up until I reached the top. The dogs leaped at the pile but couldn't climb it. Looking around, I figured out a way to reach the building, climbing from one pile to the next. The dogs followed me, snapping and growling. Their fur was matted and dirty, and one of them had a cut in its side that seemed to be infected. I got rid of my shirt, tore it in 2 and tossed it in the other direction. The dogs chased after it. This would give me a few seconds. I climbed on the roof of the building, then grabbed onto the edge and lowered myself until my feet were level with the window. My biceps screamed in protest. After days of malnutrition, my body was in no state for top sporting achievements. Gritting my teeth, I kicked back from the wall, trying to gain momentum to smash in the window. The glass splintered as my feet crashed into it. The snarl of a dog forced me to release my hold on the edge, and I swung through the window. Shards caught on my naked arms and back. Hissing in pain, I landed on the floor on even more shards. I blinked up at the window for a moment, but the heads of the jumping dogs trying to get in as well quickly tore me from my exhaustion. I jumped to my feet, swaying briefly before I looked around for something to defend myself with. Inside one of the drawers of the desk, I found a gun with 3 bullets. But then, my eyes landed on a huge package with dog food. I stumbled toward it and dragged it to the door. The first dog jumped through the window and landed on the floor with bloody paws. I kicked over the dog food so it spread all over the ground away from the glass shards. The dog perked up and, not paying me another glance, began scarfing down food. Poor beast. I carefully opened the door, and the other Rottweiler charged in. Like his companion, it ignored me in favor of food. I caught my breath for a couple of moments, half tempted to eat a couple of dog treats as well. My body was screaming for food, but I had come for money. I began searching the other drawers until I found rusty car keys that Cody had mentioned on occasion. Secrecy had never been his strong suit. I grabbed them and rushed outside toward an old Chevy. I unlocked the trunk, then dragged out the leather suitcase and opened it. My face split into a grin when I found several plastic bags with cash inside. At least $50,000 from the looks of it. Closing the suitcase, I carried it into the building, then searched for the keys for the gates. When I finally found them, the dogs lay amidst the food, panting softly but looking appeased. With the keys and suitcase, I headed out toward the gates. Scratching behind me made me turn around, prepared to fight off an attack. To my surprise, the two Rottweilers followed me and hesitantly wagged their tails. I scratched my head. What am I going to do with you? I didn't know Growl's number, or I would have called him so we could pick them up. If I left them here, the next person who came looking for money would probably shoot them. Not to mention that the bigger dog, a male, needed treatment for the cut and its bloody paws. My gaze strayed over the junkyard until it landed on Cody's big-ass Ford with the truck bed. With a pang, I put the Kawasaki on the truck bed, then stowed the suitcase in the legroom of the car. The moment I stepped back from the door, first the female Rottweiler, then the male jumped in and made themselves comfortable on the passenger seat. I had one more place to go before I could drop off the dogs, though. It was an encounter I was dreading. I went over what to say as I drove to Mom's house to explain what had happened, why I had killed Earl. But no matter how long my brain fumbled over the words, they sounded hollow and wouldn't make sense to my mother. Most of what had happened didn't make sense to me either. She came out with a shotgun when I pulled up, obviously worried about unwelcome visitors. When she spotted me, she didn't lower the gun. Her blonde hair was in curlers all over her head, and she was in a plush pink bathrobe, her lips painted in a matching tone. At least one thing never changed. I hopped out of the car, raising my hands above my head with a crooked smile. "It's me, Mom." Mom nodded, her eyes narrowing. Apparently, I was one of the unwelcome visitors she wanted to intimidate with her shotgun. "What are you doing here?" The suspicion in her voice made me wonder if she knew about how I'd killed Earl. But there was no way word could have gotten out. Nobody knew except for Vitiello's men, and I doubted they would tell anyone my mother knew. Vitiello had said he hadn't allowed word to get out anyway. And whatever I thought of Vitiello, one thing was certain. He was in absolute control over his men. "Are you going to shoot me, Mom?" My arm still raised over my head, I walked closer. She lowered the gun a few inches, but still aimed it at my chest. "What happened to you?" Mom asked, eyeing my naked, cut, and bruised upper body. "This and that," I said, not ready to divulge more information with her pointing a gun at me. She nodded toward the truck. "Isn't that Cody's?" "Yep, but he won't need it anymore." Mom nodded and smiled bitterly. "He dead?" "Yep." I slowly lowered my hands. Mom eyed me warily but didn't shoot. I didn't doubt that she could shoot someone if provoked. I grabbed his dogs from the junkyard. "Not just the dogs, I bet," she said quietly. "He kept a stash of cash over there. You know how he could never keep his mouth shut when he was drunk." "He had a big mouth on him." I gave her a wry smile. "Will you put the gun away?" Mom shook her head.
Not yet. Word on the street has it that you're working for the Italians now.
I'm not working for anyone, Mom. You know how badly I take orders. She motioned to the truck.
You should have shot the dogs. Don't you have enough problems?
I wasn't sure how much she knew, but considering her reluctance to lower the gun, too much. Earl's dead. She nodded solemnly.
I know. He and a few men were caught by the Italians. Nobody survives the wingtips.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if I'd expected tears or at least more sadness on Mom's part because of Earl's death. But considering how he cheated on her constantly and was barely home, I shouldn't have been surprised.
Word has it that you were captured as well.
I sighed, walking up the steps to the porch until I was right in front of Mom with the barrel almost touching my chest. What else have you heard?
That you are a traitor? Gray told me you betrayed their whereabouts.
My relief over this confirmation that Gray had indeed gotten away alive almost knocked me over. I did. I didn't get further when Mom's palm hit my cheek.
If something had happened to Gray that day, I'd never forgive you.
I know, which was why I made sure he could save his sorry ass.
He told me.
Where is he now?
I don't know. He left yesterday. Only dropped some money off and told me not to worry about him and that he'd make me proud.
Fuck. What the hell does that mean? Mom searched my eyes.
Why are you alive, Maddox, if you aren't working with the Italians? They didn't kill you. Gray said you made the Vitiello girl your woman.
My woman. I liked the sound of it. She means a lot to me.
More than that if she's worth becoming a traitor for. You lived for the club. Is one woman enough to make you forget what happened to your father?
I didn't forget, but I'm sick of living in the past. Marcella makes me want to think about the future.
What kind of future? What do you want to do without the club? You don't know any other life.
I'll figure it out. She laughed darkly, but at least she finally aimed the barrel at the floor.
If you work with the Italians, every biker will want your head. They'll probably want it anyway once word gets around that it was you who killed him.
I tensed. What are you talking about?
Mom slapped me again.
I saw it coming, but didn't try to defend myself. She had every right to be angry at me.
Don't lie to my face, Maddox. I'm not stupid. The info comes from the Italians. Are you telling me they're spreading rumors to destroy your reputation?
I looked away from Mom. Who had spread the truth? Only very few people that I knew of had been in the Familia prison. Luca, Amo, Matteo, Grau, and Marcella. If one of them spread that I'd killed my uncle, that could only serve the purpose to make the other Tartarus chapters in the country and the nomads of our chapter seek revenge on me. Someone had pretty much put a bounty on my head. They wanted me dead. The question was who? On the first glance, Luca seems unlikely, since he could have had me killed easily while I was his captive. But not without making Marcella resent him. Making the other bikers hunt me gave him an easy way to have me killed without getting his hands dirty, and Marcella wouldn't blame him. Do you know who's spreading the rumors?
Gray didn't tell me.
Gray is the one who told you?
Did you kill your Uncle Maddox? That's all I want to know.
You know how Earl could be, Mom. He was obsessed with revenge, even more than me. If we turn into monsters to kill a monster, we're as bad as him. Did Gray tell you what he did to Marcella?
Mom nodded. He's become more radical over the years, but you should have handled it in the club. You could have challenged him for the spot as president.
I would have never been voted president. The more progressive liberal members have all become nomads over the years. The men who remained in the club were absolutely loyal to Earl. And even if I'd won, he would have never accepted the vote. The club was his whole life. Nothing else mattered.
I know, Mom said bitterly. Her eyes searched my face. I don't know what to think. I don't know if you were the same boy I raised.
I am, Mom. I had to make a choice just like Earl made his choice when he tried to kill me with his dogs. But I'm sorry you're alone. Mom laughed.
Oh, Maddox, you know Earl hasn't been around in almost a year. But without the club, I can't pay bills. The 10 grand Gray left me won't last forever.
She put on a rubber glove as she always did when she smoked to prevent her fingers from becoming yellow. Considering she smoked about 40 cigarettes a day, that was probably a good idea. I jogged back to the truck and grabbed 30 grand from the suitcase. She watched me with a healthy dose of suspicion and didn't look mollified even as I handed it to her. This should get you through the year. I'll send you money once I start earning again. She finally put the shotgun down.
You really going to work for the mob?
I won't work for them, but I might work with them for now. I'm just so mad about this girl, I can't.
I hope she didn't trick you. I really hope giving up everything was worth it. You gave up the only home you had for this girl. Does she even realize it?
She was right. The club had been my home for as long as I could remember. Mom's house in Texas, and now here, had always only been the place where I'd gone to sleep. So much had happened in the last few days that I hadn't had time to realize I was homeless now. I'd never had my own place, always only a room in the clubhouse. I'd had club brothers or club girls to keep me company when I needed it. I'd become a nomad but without a place to return to. Marcella and I, we didn't have a place yet. And just thinking about moving in with a woman, my pulse picked up. How would it even work?
I hope you don't come to regret your decision, Maddox.
I won't, I said firmly. I'd never regret saving Marcella in the only way I'd known how. And killing Earl? I'd done him a service. He'd been spared a cruel death at Vitiello's hands. Still, a tiny part of me felt a pang thinking of the good times we'd had. Mom grabbed my forearm, her long nails digging in.
I worry for Gray. You uprooted him. He's lost, and you know how badly he needs people to look up to. He'll get in trouble, I can feel it. He'll look for another Tartarus chapter to join and get himself killed because they are going to go on a warpath with the Italians. Protect him. Bring him back here. Make sure he stays.
I'll protect him. When I find him, I'll drag him back here and make him finish school and find a decent job. He's still young. He can choose a different path.
I'd always wished for a different path for you as well, but not with the mob. Oh, Maddox, stay safe.
You know me. I can't be killed. Mom became stern.
If something happens to Gray, I won't forgive you. Don't come back here without him, you hear me? This is on you. You took everything he had from him. Now, give him something else to live for.
I swallowed, a heavy feeling of guilt settling in my chest. I had ripped Gray out of his home, too. I'd taken his father, even if they'd only fought and barely gotten along. Gray hadn't had a choice unlike me. I wasn't sure if I was the person he wanted to see. If he'd listen to me, much less come back home with me. I looked over to the truck. I should go now. I don't want to bring trouble to your door. Mom gave me a look that made it clear it was too late for that.
Swear you'll return with Gray,
she whispered harshly, her grip on me tightening even more. I wasn't sure if I could really promise it. Gray wasn't a little kid anymore. Still, I said, I swear. She finally released me. It was a promise I desperately hoped I could keep, for her sake, for Gray's sake, but mostly for my sake. I didn't need more guilty baggage added to my conscience, thanks a lot. Can you give me one of my old shirts before I leave? Mom disappeared inside without a word, and I didn't follow her. I had a feeling she didn't want me inside her home right now. I wasn't welcome, and wouldn't be until I found Gray. And even after that, we'd never been close, but this was probably the nail in our relationship coffin. She returned with 2 black shirts and handed them to me. After I'd put on one of my old shirts, I drove back toward the city, but eventually pulled over on the side of the road and let the dogs out for a piss. My gaze caught on the Kawasaki on the back, and I couldn't resist. After I'd heaved it down, I drove up and down the road for a while, hoping it would clear my head. I couldn't stop thinking about Gray. Mom always said he wouldn't have survived what I had witnessed. He was softer than me. Maybe that was why Mom had always preferred him to me. If I'd been in her stead, I'd have done it too. The dogs waited beside the car, watching me. Eventually, I pulled up beside them but stayed on the bike. I couldn't explain why I suddenly felt hesitant to ride back into the city. I wanted to return to Marcella. I'd given up everything for her, and I wanted to be with her, but someone had ratted me out. I doubted it was Grau. He didn't seem like the vindictive type, and didn't really have reason to do so unless Luca had ordered him to do it. Matteo had definitely wanted me gone. Maybe he had spread the information. Or Amo. The big guy definitely hated my guts and wanted to see me dead and far away from his sister. Now every member of Tartarus in the country would know I'd killed Earl, and they'd see me as a traitor. I'd be their main target. Finding Gray would be especially difficult like that. If I returned to Marcella to tell her I had to search for my brother Gray, whoever had ratted me out would very likely find out soon after, and then spread that information. Maybe even make it look as if I wanted Gray dead as well. Fuck, I muttered. I needed to find my brother before someone could get it in his head that I was actually a danger to him, if I wasn't already too late for that. I perched on the bike and watched the sunset. Riding my Harley into the sunset had always meant freedom, even if MC life had been full of responsibilities and roles. I decided to spend the night on the truck bed before I would make up my mind what to do next. I was dead tired and needed a night to really come to terms with the turn my life had taken. Chapter 2. Maddox. When I woke on the truck bed early the next morning, my longing for Marcella was just as strong as the call of the street. The 2 loves of my life. The endless road ahead of me and the woman with the cold blue eyes. Mom's parting words kept repeating in my head. I don't want to see you again until you've made sure your brother is safe. This is your fault. Finding Gray would be difficult. The majority of my old contacts would avoid me, and those that didn't might try to kill me. They had every reason not to trust me. But Mom was right. I needed to save Gray from himself. Not only was he probably still on the hit list of Vitiello, but pissed-off bikers out for revenge might be after him as well. If Gray got it in his head to attack Vitiello in revenge, I wouldn't be able to save him. I hoisted the Kawasaki back onto the back of the truck. I needed to get rid of it and the dogs, preferably without running into any of the Vitiello men. Once the dogs had taken their seats again, I headed toward New York. The male Rottweiler was panting constantly, probably from pain because of the gash, so I decided to take the dogs to a safe place first. During our research on the Familia and its many affiliations, we'd also come across the dog shelter run by Vitiello's enforcer, Grau. Vitiello probably wouldn't be happy if I showed up on his mansion's doorstep uninvited, and I had no way to contact Marcella. We destroyed her phone when we kidnapped her, and so far there hadn't been time to ask for her number anyway. I didn't even know what exactly to tell her that wouldn't jeopardize my search for Gray. Grell had been semi-friendly when I talked to him, so he seemed like a safer option than any other Familia soldier. When I pulled up in the driveway of the shelter, I parked beside another big pickup. I hadn't even gotten out when Growl and a tall, lanky boy came out of the house and headed my way. Growl became more alert the moment he spotted me, but at least he didn't pull a gun. That was the most friendliness I'd gotten from the Italians in years, and it still felt strange. I doubted being on semi-friendly terms with the Familia would ever not feel strange. I got out of the car, making sure to keep my hands in sight. I really didn't want to end up with a bullet in my head, unless I'd really given them reason to. "What are you doing here?" Growl asked. "I have 2 more dogs for you. Saved them from the junkyard of one of my dead club brothers. One of them is injured." Growl still looked wary, but some of his vigilance disappeared as he saw the dogs on the passenger seat. "Lead the way." I went over to the passenger door and opened it. "Hop out." The dogs actually obeyed and leaped out of the car. The bigger one growled when Growl walked up to him, but the tall man got down on his haunches and talked in a calm voice with the dog. Soon they calmed and trotted closer to him. He patted them. "I'll call our vet so we can look at the wound, and you should head back to the city and meet with Luca." I ignored the last part and motioned at the truck bed. "I have Matteo's bike. Can I leave it here so we can pick it up?" Growl straightened, the suspicion returning to his face. "Why don't you bring it to him?" "I'm not returning to New York right now. I still have a few matters to attend to before I can join Luca's team." Growl shook his head. "That's not how it works." "It's how it works with me," I said simply. "I'll probably be back in a couple of days. Tell Luca that." "What business do you have to take care of now?" "That's only my business, but it's nothing that concerns the Familia." "Everything concerns the Familia, especially if Marcella Vitiello is concerned. Does she know you'll be gone?" "You can tell her. She'll understand." I wasn't really sure that was true, especially because I couldn't give her details about my plans, not with someone ratting me out. I'd never been accountable to a woman, except for my mother when I was a little boy. But even that stopped when I became a teen. Growl narrowed his eyes. "If you aren't sure about Marcella or where your loyalties lie, you better not come back. Luca gifted you with your life once. He won't be as gracious again. What's it to you? I know where my loyalties lie. Luca took me in when I had nowhere else to go. I'm not someone who tramples on a gift like that. Just tell Marcella I'll be back once I've taken care of business. And tell Matteo thanks for his bike." I turned and got back inside the car. I didn't need a guilt trip from Growl. I had half a mind to drive to the Vitiello mansion and ask for Marcella, clear things up with her. But finding Gray before he got himself killed was my top priority. Once he told me who leaked the information about me killing his father, I could decide how to handle it. I wasn't even sure how long that would take, but Marcella and I had gone through worse than a few days of separation. Soon, we'd be reunited, and fuck, I couldn't wait to taste her again.
Marcella. Being at home still felt strange after weeks of captivity. I'd spent pretty much every second of the day with Maddox, and being separated from him felt odd. I missed his presence, even his dirty mouth, and in more than one sense, but he obviously had made his choice to move on and enjoy the freedom only the biker lifestyle could offer him. My lips twisted with bitterness as I glanced out of the window, down the street in front of our house. I kept doing it. even if Mateo had told me an hour ago that Maddox wouldn't return. The kidnapping had messed with my mind, even if I didn't want to admit it to anyone. Maybe it was good that Maddox had made the decision I had been too weak for, too infatuated for, and cut ties between us. Was it really possible to rebuild a relationship on the basis of a normal setting, without fear and a lack of freedom? We'd never find out. I didn't hate Maddox for leaving. I, too, had held doubts if it hadn't been better to let Dad kill Maddox, because then things would have just been easier. A life with Maddox would have been a challenge not just for me, but for my family and the familia, one I wasn't sure everyone would have mastered. Amo let out a low sound of displeasure. "Stop staring out the window like a dog waiting for its owner. He won't come back. He's a disloyal biker, and you're better off without him." I gave my brother my best death glare, furious about his comparison. A dog would wag its tail and welcome its owner after his return. But you can bet your ass on me kicking Maddox in the balls when he struts back into my life. Amo shook his head. "I know you would, but you should let Dad handle the idiot and have him killed. That's the clean cut you need, Marcy. That he's still out there is holding you back, and you really shouldn't let that happen. You need your energy and brain to show Dad's soldiers who's boss." I finally turned my back to the window. Only Amo's window had a view of the streets, while my window pointed out toward the gardens. Probably one more of Dad's safety measures. Nothing is holding me back. I can separate my heart from my brain. My work in the Familia doesn't have anything to do with Maddox and me. There's no Maddox and you. He dumped you. I narrowed my eyes. He can't dump me. We weren't in a relationship to speak of. Amo waved me off. "Don't go on. I don't want to know details about your prisoner with benefits status." I hurled the next thing I could grab at Amo, a heavy algebra book from the floor. He barely managed to dodge it, then he raised his arms. "All right, let's not mention the biker again." "Thanks." I walked over to his sofa and sank down. Amo returned his focus to his computer screen, where he was reading up on the topography of Pennsylvania. I wasn't sure if it was for homework or for their biker hunt. "Our soldiers will accept you eventually," Amo said. But there was a hidden but in his tone. Our soldiers. To him, everything about this came naturally. He was welcomed with open arms, and nobody ever questioned that he would become capo once Dad retired. I also knew what Amo wasn't saying. Because they respect and fear Dad? He didn't deny it. "I'll earn their respect. You'll have to work harder for it than I ever will." I knew that. Women were looked down upon. We were supposed to be pretty and know when to keep our mouths shut. I'd be spared sexist comments because of Dad, but the men wouldn't take me seriously for myself. "You still sure about the tattoo?" Amo asked, motioning in the general direction of my back. I tensed like I always did when I was reminded of the ugly words tattooed on my back. Vitiello whore. Yes, I won't spend months trying to remove it only for scars to remain. People would know what those scars meant, and that what happened bothered me enough to want to erase it completely from my body. That would look weak. I'll keep the words, but cover them with my truth. Amo nodded. "Maybe I'll get another tattoo as well." I scoffed. "Good luck convincing Mom. You wouldn't even have your first tattoo if you didn't need it for the Familia." "Dad would talk to her." I rolled my eyes. A soft knock sounded. "Yeah," Amo answered. Mom poked her head in, her expression worried but clearing up when she spotted me. "There you are, Marcy. I went to your room first." I rarely spent time in my room. Amo hadn't complained about my presence yet. If it really didn't bother him or if his protectiveness came through, I wasn't sure. "What do you need?" I asked, giving Mom a firm smile. She's still worried about me, especially since Maddox's disappearance. Secretly, she was probably as relieved about his leaving his dad, but she'd never say it. Giovanni is here. My mouth fell open, completely taken aback. He didn't call? Not that I'm aware of, Mom said. She glanced at Amo. He gave a one-shoulder shrug. I don't have his number or he mine. We're not that close. I swallowed down anger. Dad. I doubt Giovanni would dare to come by without asking for permission first. Mom gave me a placating smile. Your father worries about you as much as I do. Maybe he thought it would do you good to see him. I paced the room. How will it do me good to see my ex-boyfriend only hours after Maddox left? Old flames burn longer, right? Amo muttered. I would have hurled another book at him, and not missed this time if Mom hadn't been present. Will you see him, or should I send him away? Mom asked. He's down in the foyer. I couldn't believe Giovanni was here. Of all the people I didn't want to see right now, he was at the top. Send him away. I can't deal with him right now. Mom nodded and turned. Maddox was probably already getting cozy with one of his pass-arounds right this moment, having her give him a blowy. The idea made me sick and furious at once. I didn't regret what had happened between us. I'd enjoyed it too much, but I wished I hadn't gotten emotionally involved. Wait, I shouted, stumbling after Mom. She turned with raised eyebrows. I'll talk to him, I said quickly. It would be rude to send him away when he came all the way here. That's true, Mom said. Be open-minded. She meant maybe I'd reconsider Giovanni. My first instinct was to say no, because breaking up with Giovanni had felt liberating. I couldn't see how getting back together with him could make me feel better. Returning to an ex-boyfriend only because one couldn't be alone or to soothe a broken heart was the worst option. Should I tell him you need to get ready? I glanced down at myself. I was in gym leggings and a sweater, clothes I'd only ever worn in public on my way to or from the gym. Still, I shook my head. I don't feel like dressing up. Giovanni could see the real me, the no-makeup sweater girl. It was only one tiny part of me, but it was one he'd never met. Only perfect Marcella. I followed Mom downstairs. Like she had said, Giovanni waited in the foyer, regarding an old family photo with mild curiosity. He must have seen it 100 times already. He turned to me when I was on the last step, his eyes taking in my outfit. Surprise flitted across his face, but he quickly masked it with a warm smile. To my surprise, I was no longer angry at Giovanni for his words about me being ruined if I broke up with him. The kidnapping put everything into perspective. He'd been hurt and shocked, so he'd lashed out in the only way he could. I gave Mom a nod, indicating to her that she could leave. She slipped into the living room and closed the door. Silence spread between Giovanni and me. He was, as usual, immaculately dressed in a button-down shirt and slacks plus Budapesters. The outfit didn't do anything for me anymore. Maddox had turned me into a leather jacket, biker boots, and jeans lover, which made me even angrier, considering nobody in our circles dressed like that. Marcy, Giovanni said gently, tearing me from my thoughts. I forced a smile and took the last step down but didn't go closer to him. Giovanni, you look good. It was the most inane thing I could have said, and could only be topped if I started talking about the weather. His smile broadened. You do too. I shook my head. I'm in gym clothes with no makeup. You don't have to lie. I'm not lying, Marcy. I'm not a fan of your outfit, but you are as beautiful as always. Thanks, I said, and smiled more honestly than I had all day. This remark about my outfit would have set me off in the past, but I didn't care about Giovanni's approval anymore. Being perfect in everyone's eyes had been ripped from my hands, and in many ways, It made life easier. "Can I come closer?" Giovanni asked. Why would you ask? But then it dawned on me. The rumors had reached his ears and he thought I'd be scared of his closeness. Not that he'd been the touchy-feely type before, but I was certain his hesitance stemmed from a different place now. "Sure, I'm fine, Giovanni. You don't have to treat me like I'm breakable." Giovanni closed the distance between us and took my hands. Something I hadn't expected, but I didn't pull away. Being close to someone other than family felt good after everything. But Giovanni wasn't the man I wanted to be consoled by. Yet, that man had taken off like a goddamn coward. I shoved any thought of Maddox aside. Giovanni met my gaze. He was infatuated and devoted as it had been before. He wouldn't run off. No. He was here, asking me for a second chance. "I want us to try again. This time everything can be different, Marcy." "Different how?" I asked. He lowered his voice as if he feared someone might be eavesdropping. That almost made me roll my eyes again. "I wouldn't hold back anymore. I'd give you everything you need. I'd kiss you everywhere, touch you everywhere. I'd sleep with you." "You would?" "Yes," he said. "Nothing is holding us back anymore. We could be like a normal couple even without being married. People won't expect bloody sheets anymore." It took me a moment to process his words, and then to get over them. He sounded relieved that I'd slept with Maddox, because the rumors about me getting nasty with a biker meant he didn't have to preserve my virginity anymore. It meant he didn't have to fear my father anymore. Because in comparison to Maddox, me sleeping with Giovanni was something Dad would probably applaud. I pulled my hands out of his, once again angry. "You are wrong. Something is holding us back. My feelings for you. I don't want to be with you anymore, not in the physical sense and not emotionally either. I've moved on, Giovanni, and so should you." "Marcy, you don't have to be ashamed of what happened. The rumors will die down eventually. Once we're married, people will only see you as the woman at my side." It took impossible self-control not to scream at him from the top of my lungs. I'd been bottling up too many emotions anyway. But I didn't want to alert Mom, or worse, Dad. They were already babysitting me 24/7, and a mental breakdown definitely wouldn't help my case. "Please leave now," I pressed out. "I'm not interested in being the woman at someone's side right now. I want to focus on work. Learning the ins and outs of the familia will take time and dedication. I think you should look for another woman." I had to admit I was proud of myself for my moderately calm voice. The hint of a sympathetic smile flitted across Giovanni's face. "My father mentioned your plan to join the familia." He shook his head in a way that couldn't be described as anything but condescending. "Listen, Marcy, your dad's humoring you because you were hurt, but people are starting to talk. It's not fitting for a woman to want a place in our ranks." Women weren't supposed to want anything. Not sex, not love, and definitely not a place in the world they were born into. I only want what I deserve as a Vitiello. Amo and Valerio won't have to justify their desire to be part of the familia. "They are men," Giovanni said, as if it was news to me. Had he always been this insufferable? Or had I been more compliant in the past? I honestly couldn't say. "And I'm a woman who's strong enough to demand the same." Giovanni sighed. "Oh, but you aren't facing the same trials as every man who becomes part of the familia. We have to swear an oath, get a tattoo. We have to bleed and suffer pain for the cause." I lost it. I was tattooed. I bled, and I suffered pain for a feud between the familia and Tartarus, Giovanni. I shoved my hair aside, revealing my missing earlobe. Then I opened the zipper of my sweater and tugged down the shirt beneath, so my shoulder was bare, revealing the top of the tattoo. Giovanni's eyes widened when he saw it. "What kind of pain have you suffered that's worse? "I'm sorry, Marcy, you suffered. You are right, but you didn't do it with the familia in mind. You didn't suffer for the cause. You were collateral damage. And if you'd known any secrets of value, you would have revealed them the second they threatened to cut off your ear." Seeing my expression, he added, "Which is understandable. You are a woman with a different level of resilience to pain." "Come on, Giovanni," Amo drawled, coming down the steps. "Last time you had to do practice fights, you almost bawled because someone twisted your fucking wrist. Marcella's tough as nails. If our father expected her to suffer pain for the cause, she'd do it again and she wouldn't break because she's a Vitiello. And taking a tattoo doesn't make you more loyal. Marcella lives and breathes for our family. And our family is the familia." I could have hugged him right then. I could deal with Giovanni by myself. But Amo's support and the casual way in which he confirmed that I had indeed suffered for the cause had a different kind of weight in Giovanni's eyes. My brother's and father's words would probably always weigh more heavily than mine, but I'd make sure that my words were at least heard. Amo stopped beside me, giving Giovanni a slightly unsettling smile. "Is there anything else you want?" "I think Giovanni wants to leave now," I said. Giovanni took a step back, then another. He nodded. "I'm sorry you feel the way you do, Marcella. I hope this won't shine a bad light on you and your family." "Goodbye," Amo muttered. And Giovanni finally turned and rushed outside. I let out a suppressed scream, balling my hands into fists. "I want to hit something really bad." You can pummel my boxing sack to the ground if you want. I was heading down to the gym anyway." "All right," I said. "I have no better place to be anyway." Going outside or meeting with friends was still out of the question. The door opened, and Dad stepped into the foyer with Valerio by his side. Dad's gaze immediately zoomed in on me. He must have run across Giovanni or at the very least seen his car, though the bodyguards probably had informed him about our houseguest the very second he'd arrived anyway. "Is everything all right?" Dad asked, looking from me to Amo. We were heading down to the gym so I could beat up Amo's boxing sack. Concern filled Dad's gray eyes. "What happened with Giovanni?" "He's a douche," Valerio commented. "I never liked him, and I'm glad Marcy dumped him. She needs someone cooler at her side." "Thanks for the dating advice," I said with a laugh. "Next time I'll run my boyfriend by you first." "Amo?" Dad asked, a hint of impatience in his voice. "Nothing happened," I said firmly. "He wanted a second chance, and I said no. Then he informed me that I shouldn't join the familia because I would never suffer pain for the cause like men do." I shrugged. "No big deal." Anger twisted Dad's face. Valerio strolled over to me. "Some of my friends said the same, but I kicked their asses and told them you were really tough. Now they believe me." I ruffled his blonde mane. "I'm the luckiest girl in the world to have such loyal and brutal brothers. I'll handle Giovanni and the other men who badmouth you. I'll prove myself to them, Dad." Dad nodded distractedly, probably already making a list of people he'd punish. It wouldn't make them respect me more. "Can I talk to you after my workout?" I asked. "I'm in the office, just come by." "Can I come with you?" Valerio asked when Amo and I headed into the basement. "Sure, but we want to work out, so you should put on gym clothes," I said. "Be right back," Valerio called, already whirling around and dashing upstairs. He's like a squirrel on steroids. Where does he get all this energy from? Amo muttered. I grinned and followed Amo down to his gym. Amo showed me how to hit the boxing sack, make it look effortless, and soon my knuckles burned. Valerio dashed inside, all lanky limbs and tousled hair. We soon all laughed as we took turns kicking and boxing the sack. Even Amo took his workout only semi-seriously for once. When I headed back upstairs a little while later and headed for Dad's office, I felt the happiest I had in a while. Today had shown me once again that I could survive anything as long as I had my family. After a knock, I entered Dad's office. He gave me a strained smile. "What do you want to talk about, Princess?" "I want to hear your honest opinion on how I can earn the respect of your soldiers and really become part of the Familia. Half-assing it won't work. I realize that now." "They won't see you as part of the Familia as long as we don't officially make you part of the Familia." "Then let me take the oath." Dad shook his head. "You'd have to cut your palm and receive the tattoo." I raised my eyebrows. Dad's eyes moved to my earlobe, turning scary for a moment before he released a harsh breath. "I wish I'd killed Earl. Are you sure you don't want me to kill the other whites?" "Gray and Maddox. The man who kept popping into my head uninvited. Killing him wouldn't change that." "Yes, I'm sure," I said firmly. I walked over to Dad's side and wrapped my arms around his neck. "Maybe your men need a gesture. One that shows I really want this, and that you'll demand certain things from me in turn as well. I don't mind cutting my palm, Dad. Not after surviving Tartarus. Because you suffered cuts by Tartarus's hands because of me, I don't want you to suffer them again. This time it will be on my terms. My blade doing the cut. It will be painful nonetheless. I can handle it," I said firmly. "I know you can." Dad touched my cheek. "But I won't have you tattooed in front of a hall of leering men. You'll always be treated differently. A tattoo won't change that." I knew when to stop negotiating. "When can I take the oath?" Dad shook his head with a chuckle. "There's an initiation of 4 boys in a month. Or if you want to be initiated by yourself, then no. I want to be initiated with the men." Dad nodded once. "You've chosen a very difficult path. I'm glad you won't be burdened with white in addition."
Chapter 3. Maddox. It took me 2 days and a few $1,000s of bribe money to find out where Gray was. My old contacts had been leery of me, as expected, and hadn't been willing to hand over information as a favor. I'd barely left the last biker bar alive, but at least with information about Gunner's newest hiding place. Word about me becoming a traitor had made the rounds far quicker than I'd anticipated. And not just that. People knew that I had killed Earl. That was information only very few people had. And one of them had obviously spilled the beans gladly, probably in the hopes to have me killed soon. I had my suspicions. Luca might have let me go because Marcella asked him to, but he'd prefer it if I never returned to her. He wanted me dead. I had no doubt about it. I wouldn't have pegged him as the sneaky type, but desperate times. Of course, he wasn't the only one who knew about me killing Earl. Matteo, Amo, Marcella, and Growl at least. Maybe more of Luca's soldiers. Except for Marcella, each of them could have let the information slip to dispose of me. The hut where Gunner hid with a few other bikers wasn't surrounded by a fence like our last clubhouse had been, but that didn't mean it was less protected. Gunner had a penchant for booby traps, something he'd learned in his time in the military and later refined as part of the prepper scene. I parked my bike down the dirt road that led up to the hut. There were 3 tire tracks, deep grooves that had been forced into the ground over time. It only made sense that people kept to the tracks if there was danger around them. The problem was, I didn't trust all 3 tracks to be equally safe. I had a feeling one of them at least was a trap and hid several bombs waiting to tear me apart. I scanned the ground left and right of the dirt road, hoping for a sign that it was safe there. But the grass hid possible tracks and bombs from the eye. Not to mention that I had never been good at track work, That had been Gray's thing. My best bet was to choose one of the tracks on the dirt road and hope for the best. I stood on my tiptoes to get a better view of the hut. After a few seconds, I spotted the roof of a truck. If Gunnar and his friends used the truck, they might use this track to get up there. Then only the outer tracks would be safe. Unless they used a back road I didn't know anything about, or didn't use the truck at all. From my vantage point, I couldn't even see if the thing was still in working condition. Taking a deep breath, I started my bike again and was about to ride in the outer left track when a voice called, "I wouldn't pick that track if I were you." My head shot up, my eyes going wide, then my lips pulled into a smile as I spotted Gray. He didn't look happy in the slightest to see me. He was still in his Tartarus cut. Seeing it tightened my chest. Until recently, I'd gone nowhere without my cut, only taking it off for sleep and occasionally sex, though most ladies loved to see me in it. Behind him, Gunnar appeared too, looking even unhappier. Even from a distance, I could see the fat lump on his forehead close to his temple, where I'd hit him. "What you doing here, Maddox? You aren't welcome here." "I come in peace. We need to talk." Gray shook his head. I wasn't sure if he didn't believe that I came in peace or if he didn't want to talk to me.
"Word is you're one of Vitiello's henchmen now, Matt. Killing bikers is your new job. Not sure I want you anywhere near me and my friends," Gray shouted, crossing his arms over his chest. "If I wanted to kill you, I could have done it in the clubhouse. I don't want either of you dead, and I'm not one of Vitiello's henchmen, all right?" They didn't need to know that my future job description entailed hunting down Earl supporters. Gray shook his head again, muttering something to Gunnar. It was driving me crazy that he was too far away to hear what he was going on about. "Can I come up to talk?" Gunnar pointed a warning finger at me. "Drop your weapons, and don't try to fuck us up, Matt. I used to like you, but I won't hesitate to kill you." "I'm dropping my guns now." I removed the gun and the knife from my boot and my belt and put them down on the ground in a very obvious way. Despite what had happened, I still felt a certain amount of trust in these two. Maybe it was foolish nostalgia. "Done." "My friends inside the hut have a very nervous trigger finger. I get it," I interrupted Gunnar. "I mess up and you kill me. I'll behave, I swear." "What's your swear even worth?" Gray shouted. "You're a liar and a cheat." "You can pick the left track," Gunnar said. "The middle's a bad idea." I glanced at Gray, who had warned me about the left track, then back to Gunnar. "The kid's a bit pissed at you for killing his old man," Gunnar explained. Gray turned around and stalked away, leaving me with the choice of whom to trust. Gunnar and I had been on many runs. I liked him, more than all the others. But Gray was my brother, and a hot-headed teenager who'd lost his dad and club. "Fuck," I muttered. Taking another deep breath, I picked the left track and started my bike. My heart galloped like a wild horse when my tire touched the track, and I practically held my breath all the way up to the driveway where Gunnar waited for me with a gun in hand. I let out a laugh when I came to a stop, overwhelmed with relief that I hadn't been torn into tiny pieces. "Turn off the engine," Gunnar ordered, still the gun pointed at my head. I did as he said, and raised my hands over my head with a wry smile. "Come on, Gunnar. We aren't enemies. I have nothing against you. I didn't kill you, and you didn't kill me. I call that even." "You destroyed the club," Gunnar muttered, jabbing a finger at the Tartarus emblem over his chest. "What have you forgotten?" "I didn't destroy anything. Earl did when he started torturing Marcella. That was messed up. He got off track. You know it, and many of the nomads know it too. It's why they left in the first place." Gunnar eyed me.
I won't say you should have talked to Earl because we both know how that would have ended. But you could have put yourself up for vote as the new prez. Most of the men who remained in the club were loyal to Earl. It's why they stayed and didn't become nomads. I wouldn't have won, and Earl would have definitely killed me then. He wanted me dead in the end. He tried killing me first, so I'm not sad I killed him. Gunnar shrugged. The chapter's dead, too. It doesn't have to be. You and the other nomads could build it up again, with the ideals it used to have. Brotherhood and freedom. Not money, revenge, and drugs. A part of the original Tartarus chapter was still in Texas, and a few smaller chapters were scattered all over the East Coast. But the heart of Tartarus had always been Earl's main chapter, which had followed him from Texas to Jersey. And who should become prez? Gray? He scoffed. He's a boy. He's too young, I agreed. You could do the job until Gray's ready to take over. Gunnar smiled. I'm not a leader. I don't want to tell these guys what to do. I just want to ride my bike, drink a beer, and have a good time with my brothers. That's it. Then pick someone else. What about Roland? He's well-connected and everyone likes him. Roland had been one of the last to become a nomad. He and I had gotten along well. Everyone likes him. You said it. Ever seen a prez who earned the respect of a biker gang by being a nice guy? I nodded at the gun in Gunnar's hand. How about you put that away? Like I said, I come in peace. You aren't the people I have a grudge against. So, you're still on the hunt? Not on the hunt, but I'll keep an eye out for Earl's old crew. I don't want trouble, but I won't wait for it to be brought to my doorstep. You mean your girl's doorstep? I didn't confirm nor deny it, but Gunnar laughed. Fuck. She's got you by the balls. Like Barb got you. Gunnar shrugged. Bob knows her place in club life. Your girl doesn't. You'll have to give up the life you're used to, the life you swore you'll life to. She won't be an old lady. She's who she is, and I am who I am. We can remain who we are and still be together. You sure? I can't see you banging pass-arounds or riding your bike all night while being her old man's lapdog. I won't be anyone's lapdog. And it's not like you've been banging anyone else but Barb in a while. Gunnar gave me the finger. I knew he made valid points. My life was going to change drastically once Marcella and I were really together. It had already changed the moment I betrayed my club and killed Earl. I wasn't sure yet how everything would work out, how our lives would look 5 years from now. But I knew I wanted it to be with Marcella. It was still a shocking thought, one I'd never considered myself ever having. But Marcella had changed everything. To a degree, even myself. You could lead the new Tartarus, you know, Gunnar said quietly, shocking me. You said it yourself. I burned down most of what Tartarus was and killed not just Earl, but other bikers. I doubt I'd get many votes if I put myself up for president. They'd hang me from the next tree. They might. Or you convince them that you're willing to create something better. I chuckled and got off my bike. Gunnar, you were holding me at gunpoint because you didn't trust me. These guys know me even less, and what they know about me are the rumors about my betrayal and Earl's murder. They won't listen. They'll shoot me, and I can't even blame them. Gunnar shrugged. I would consider giving you my vote. I don't like how you handle things. Don't like you having the hots for the Italian princess. But I think you could be a great prez. I shook my head again. I'd always wanted to be prez of Tartarus. For a long time, I'd pushed the thought aside because Gray was Earl's rightful heir. And now I had to push it aside again. Being prez of a motorcycle club, especially Tartarus with its backstory, and being the man at Marcella's side, And I sure as fuck wanted to be the man at her side. Was impossible. Think about it. Them all pretty girls out there. Maybe even prettier than the Italian princess. I gave him a doubtful look. He shrugged. Maybe not more beautiful, but they do. I approached Gunnar and patted his shoulder. Thanks, but it's not just her looks. Marcella is the queen I didn't know I needed in my life. There's no one else I'd like to be led around by the balls by. I glanced at the hut, spotting 3 heads watching us through dirt-covered windows. I bet each of those guys had a gun in their hand. Is Gray in there? There's a small stream down the hill. He goes there when he needs to think. Gunnar stopped me with a hand on the shoulder. The boy hadn't only lost his father. He also lost his brother. He didn't lose me. Until a few minutes ago, he didn't know that, and maybe he still doesn't. You could be his enemy. Maybe I'm a fool for thinking you want mine, too. I'm not your enemy, Gunnar, and definitely not Gray's. Then tell him. The kid's lost. I stifled my guilt. My decisions hadn't only affected me. They'd affected Gray, too. Make sure these guys don't put a hole in my head, all right? I clambered down a rough pathway, meandering through woods as I followed the sound of rushing water. Gray was sitting on a massive stone, smoking and glaring down at the stream. Gray didn't look up, even though he must have heard my steps. His shoulders stiffened, though. From close up, he looked haggard, as if he'd lost considerable weight in the few days we hadn't seen each other. I stopped beside him, not saying anything at first. I wanted him to start this conversation, to give me an easy in. For once, I was being a coward, but guilt always made me uncomfortable. Eventually, I cleared my throat. Gray flicked away the cigarette. He looked older than I remembered him, and a fresh cut marred his left cheek. "Won't you say something?" I asked. Still, nothing. "Maybe explain why you wanted to kill me by sending me along the mine track." I had to admit it fucking hurt thinking that Gray wanted me dead. That he hated me enough to want to see me being ripped apart by a booby trap. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised. "Swear that you didn't kill our father," he whispered. "He was your father, and not a very good one." Gray's eyes widened in realization. "You really killed him!" He pushed to his feet and shoved my chest, making me stumble back a step. "You killed our father!" I raised my hands. I had absolutely no intention of fighting with Gray. He wasn't the man we both wanted him to be. "So what? He took you in and raised you, and you betrayed and killed him." "Mom raised us, and Earl made us part of Tartarus. We were more his soldiers than his sons. You know that." "You had no right to kill him." Gray turned away, wiping over his eyes angrily. He was still a boy in many regards. He didn't have Earl's or my toughness yet. He had a soft heart. That would probably change eventually, especially if he kept living the MC life, but I didn't want it to happen to him. For some reason, I imagined Gray living his life as a musician, touring small clubs with his guitar and singing corny love songs to sweet small-town girls. It was either me killing him or Luca Vitiello. Would you have really preferred for Earl to die at the hands of that madman? I doubt I could have killed Earl as easily if the situation had been different. Despite the aversion between us in the end and him trying to have me eaten by dogs, he had been a father figure for most of my life. "He wouldn't have had to die if you hadn't given Vitiello our location. You betrayed us and the club. You betrayed me." I realized for the first time Gray wasn't only pissed and sad. He was also hurt by my actions. His eyes brimmed with pain. I tried to touch his shoulder, but he stepped out of reach, and so I dropped my hand. You know why I did it. I explained it to you. And I never meant to betray you, Gray. You hated what we'd done as much as I did. You aren't someone who'd ever hurt an innocent woman. But Earl didn't want to listen to reason. Gray sank back down on the stone and lit another cigarette. Have a smoke for me? I asked. I had enough cigarettes in my back pocket, but I wanted to see what Gray would say. He held out his packet to me without a word. I took a cigarette and Gray gave me fire. I didn't want you to be killed by booby traps, he muttered. I cocked an eyebrow in doubt. Gray shrugged. I was certain you wouldn't listen to me. Nobody ever does. I would have listened if Gunnar hadn't interfered. I would have stopped you. I decided to believe him. The situation between us was messed up enough. I didn't want to pour fuel into the fire. What happened to your cheek? I defended you. When the guy started saying you killed Earl, I got into a fight. I pulled a knife. They did too, and one of them cut my cheek. You're lucky they didn't kill you. Knife fights aren't your specialty, Gray. Gray glared. I shouldn't have defended you. That was my mistake. They were right after all. You killed him. I thought the Italians were spreading rumors to get you killed. Do you know who spread the rumors about me? I asked. Gray shook his head. I stayed away from the mob. I wouldn't have listened to them anyway. And I didn't listen to Roland and the other guys either when they told me. They probably know names. Might have to talk to them then. I needed to find the mole who wanted me dead. Though the list was getting longer and longer by the day. Gray met my gaze, a reproachful glint in his eyes. What do you want? You aren't welcome here. Half of Tartarus wants your head. I doubt you're here to see me. I am. I was worried about you, I said. Gray scoffed. I escaped the Familia. I can survive on my own. I know. I finally took a pull from my cigarette, which had burned down halfway by now. What does the other half of Tartarus want? I asked curiously. Gray glowered. They thought Earl needed to be reined in and think that's what you did. They're wary of you because of the Italians, though. Are you really working for them? Not for them, but I'm working with them to find those who are still loyal to Earl and who intend to finish what he couldn't. I'll protect Marcella no matter the cost. Gray's mouth twisted. Everyone's saying she's leading you around by the balls because she wants to use you. Marcella doesn't have a reason to use me. Once her father saved her, she could have dropped me like a hot potato. But she made sure I was safe. You love her? I'd been pondering that question myself even after I told her. I'd never told a girl I loved her before, and I wasn't sure how to really know when you crossed the line between having a crush and really loving someone. But giving up the life you knew for someone seemed like a pretty good indicator. I do. Gray nodded. Does Gunnar know who spread the rumors about me? I wanted to change the topic. Talking emotions, especially love, with Gray made me uncomfortable. I preferred to keep my emotions and thoughts to myself. Gunnar stayed away from the Italians like I did. He barely escaped alive. I had been surprised that Gunnar had made it out alive, I had to admit. But his obsession with survival training must have come in handy. You think it's safe for me to talk to the guys in the hut to see if they can tell me more? Gray nodded. Gunnar's really pissed at you, in case you're wondering. More than the others, anyway. So if anyone kills you, it would be him. Gunnar didn't seem overly hostile. At least not more than could be expected. If I had been in his stead, I would have been pissed too. Who are the guys with Gunnar? He said Roland was there. Roland came back this morning after running a few errands. We needed money. The others are just a couple of guys who left in the early days of Earl's revenge quest. Richie, Kurt, and Bean. I remembered all of the guys, but I hadn't talked to them in forever. And none of them are going to put a bullet in my head. Like I said, if Gunnar didn't kill you, they probably won't either. The people who want you dead aren't in our group. But Earl still has many supporters, especially down in Texas. They might try to kill you and Marcella. You can trust my word. I'd never betray you, Gray muttered. You can leave if you think I'm leading you into a trap. I trust you, Gray, I said. But I had to admit I felt a hint of wariness. Maybe it was just my general distrustful nature. You should leave here and come with me. I can take you to Mom. She's worried about you. I won't come with you. There's nothing for me to return to. I'm too old to move in with Mom again. I didn't point out that he was still 17 and thus technically supposed to live with Mom. We both had hardly ever experienced a standard family life, so why start now? You could come with me. I wasn't even sure where I'd live. I didn't have a place to stay. Living in one of Tartarus's old hubs seemed like a bad idea. I had money now, but finding an apartment in the city would still take time. And I doubted Luca would allow me to sleep in Marcella's room. The thought almost made me smile. But at the same time, the realization that I actually considered living under the same roof with Marcella scared the living shit out of me. Fuck. This was getting serious in my brain. Could I really do that? Especially with the additional complication of Marcella's family. I won't get anywhere near the Italians, Gray muttered. Stay out of trouble, all right? I think you should listen to your own advice. More people want you dead than me. I grinned bitterly. I intend to find out who they are and eliminate as many as possible. Chapter 4. Maddox. Gray and I headed back to the hut. Gray entered first and disappeared from view for a couple of minutes. The low rumble of mumbling carried over to me before Gray reappeared. When he gave me a nod, I followed him inside. Bean, Kurt, Richie, Roland, and Gunnar sat around a rustic wooden table, bottles of beer in front of them. All of their eyes followed me as I sank down on a vacant chair. You have balls coming here after what you did, and I thought the Vitiello princess has your balls in her hands, Bean said, flashing me a grin, revealing his missing front tooth. Earl had smashed it in and forbidden Bean from having it replaced. He was supposed to keep the gap as a reminder. Shortly after, Bean had become a nomad, maybe 2 years ago. She does on occasion, I said with a shrug. You sure she hasn't cut them off? Richie asked. I nodded at a full bottle. Can I have one? Listening to bullshit talk makes me thirsty. Gunnar stifled a grin and handed me the bottle. Go ahead. But we both know you aren't here for pleasantries or rebuilding old connections, right, Mad? I want to make one thing clear. I don't have anything against anyone at this table. I'm not out for anyone's head unless they are out for mine or Marcella's. So if you don't intend to hurt my woman or me, I won't fuck you up. Richie put down his bottle with unnecessary force. It's 6 against 1, Mad. You got a big mouth on you thinking you'd survive if you went against us. You aren't even armed. I could take you. Most of you lived a lazy life these last few years. I paused because I wasn't arrogant enough to think I could really beat all of them at once. And who says I'm alone? Remember, I work with the mob now. Roland chuckled. Some of those Italians seem to want you dead too, Matt. Not sure you've chosen the right side. And who are they? I hear you talk to the people who want me dead. Not me personally. I don't go anywhere near Vitiello's men. Gunnar squinted down at his bottle. I narrowed my eyes. You did? He sighed. I ran across the giant boy a day or so after my escape. I was still not quite myself and was stupid enough to hide in one of our old warehouses. The hit on my head really messed me up. Giant boy? You mean Amo? Gunnar nodded. Yep. The boy caught up with me with another guy, and I was sure they'd end me right there. The little shits. But instead, Amo told me about how you killed Earl and were out for more Tartarus heads. And you didn't have anything better to do than spread the word? Gunnar glared. You don't expect my loyalty, do you? I was royally pissed, especially in the first days when I had the headache of my life, and didn't know you'd made sure Gray got out alive. I only told 1 or 2 guys, but it obviously spread from there. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Vitiello boy told a few more bikers. He seems to hold a grudge against you. He probably doesn't like the idea of you sinking your ugly cock into his sister's mouth and pussy, Bean said with a laugh. I punched him. He cried out and held his mouth. Several guns were pointed at me. I raised my palms. Don't insult my woman. Roland shook his head. You're trying to make the impossible possible, Matt. Take my advice. Leave the Vitiellos as long as you still can. It's better to live with the memory of a few nights with the spoiled princess than to die the moment she loses interest in you. Everyone nodded. Maybe she enjoyed the wild ride of being with a biker, but eventually she'll pick one of her people, Gunnar said. I didn't come here for relationship advice, especially from you guys. I wanted information and I got it, so thanks. I got up. Are you going to rebuild Tartarus? Roland and Gunnar exchanged a look. Once we find a press. Gray opened his mouth, but closed it again and crossed his arms in front of his chest. Good luck, then, I said, getting up. I should head back now. Back to the Italians? Bean asked with a scoff. Back to my woman. I squeezed Gray's shoulder. Call me if you need my help, all right? Gray met my gaze, then nodded. I hoped he'd really take me up on my offer. And visit Mom now and then. She worries. Gunnar got up and followed me out of the hut. You have more enemies than friends at this point, Matt. Make sure you know who's who. You belong here. I hope it won't take you too long to realize it. We could use a clever leader like you to build up what's broken. I smiled tightly. You'll do fine without me. I turned and returned to my bike. I couldn't deny it. I wasn't sure if I wouldn't miss this way of living. The sense of uninhibited freedom. The brotherhood as it used to be in the first years of me becoming a member of Tartarus. I didn't know much about the life of the Familia, and what I knew seemed filled with old-fashioned traditions and hypocritical rules. I wasn't sure if I could fit in there, but I would try for Marcella. But first, before I could even think about working with the Familia, much less try to fit in with the Vitiellos, I needed to have a serious word with Amo fucking Vitiello.
Marcella. To distract me from what had happened, Mom took me out on a girls' spa day. She'd made last-minute appointments in our favorite hair salon, nail studio, and day spa. It'll be like before. You'll forget all your worries, Mom said with a kind smile. But it wasn't. And I didn't. We didn't go into the front entrance like in the past. We sneaked in through the staff entrance at the back, with our hoodies up over our heads like criminals to avoid curious eyes. By now the press had caught wind of my rescue, and since Dad's lawyer had only released a very short, uneventful statement, the speculations were skyrocketing. After the leaked video of me naked, everyone in the country had been talking about my kidnapping. Keeping it hush-hush had been impossible even for Dad, and now everyone wanted to know as much as possible about my return. One of our bodyguards chased off a paparazzi hiding behind the trash bins, smashing his no doubt expensive camera and tossing it back at the man who scurried away. Dad's lawyer would probably have to handle this too. Mom squeezed my hand and smiled when we finally took off our hoodies inside of the day spa. It smelled of lemongrass and mint inside the lobby, a familiar scent. I'd lost count of the times Mom and I spent a girls' day here. Eventually, the press and everyone else will forget what happened, Marcy. They'll lose interest. We'll just have to lay low for a while. You mean hide? Mom gave me an uncertain look. May, one of the staff, came over to us. She was smiling like she always did, but I caught the curiosity in her eyes. She too knew what had happened. Forgetting what happened proved difficult. I'd started to relax when my hairdresser asked me to remove my earring so she could properly wash my hair for the intense hydration and gloss treatment. She can't, Mom interfered in a firm voice. You'll just have to be more careful. I swallowed my own reply, but I couldn't relax again. The next incident occurred when May did my nails. They were partly broken off, and my fingertips were bloody in parts. I could see the questions in her eyes even if she didn't ask any. Mom kept throwing worried glances our way, which didn't scream normalcy either. The final straw was our massage appointment. Take off your clothes and make yourself comfortable, May said in her usual sing-song voice. I began to peel off the bathrobe I'd put on at the beginning of our spa day, but Mom touched my hand, stopping me, her eyes alarmed. Maybe we'll skip the back massages today and only do our legs, she said to May. It took me a moment to realize why. Because of the tattoo on my back. May froze, and so did I. I lowered my hand, leaving the bathrobe on. May did as Mom had said and only massaged our calves and feet, which was great as usual, but I couldn't enjoy a single moment. I was silent on our way home, and even when we entered the mansion, Dad was there, probably because Mom had messaged him. He kissed my temple. Maybe you should stay inside for a couple of weeks. I don't want to hide. I did nothing wrong, I snapped. Of course you didn't, Mom said. You know that's not why we protect you from the public. But you know how people are. They want to gossip, Dad growled. They need to go looking elsewhere. I won't hide, I said finally. They'll make up their own stories if I don't tell them my version. The more I hide, the more they think I have something to hide. And hiding something suggests guilt. I won't hide. Dad smiled, a hint of pride in his eyes. All right, what do you suggest? The soiree at Mayor Stein's in a couple of weeks. I want to attend it. And I won't sneak into buildings through the back or wear hoodies to cover my face. If the paparazzi want a photo of me, they'll get it. On my terms, like it used to be. They'll try to catch you unexpectedly and vulnerable. Maybe take a shot of your ear or tattoo. Mom said gently, always trying to protect me. I shrugged. I know the game. I've played it for years and they never got anything I didn't want them to get. I have no intention of changing that now. They'll get to see my tattoo once it's altered the way I want it. And my ear? I paused. The obvious blemish bothered me. I couldn't deny it. For someone who'd always strived for perfection, and who'd always been praised for her perfect beauty, it was a challenge to be ripped of it. But I was also proud of the mark, because it showed what I survived. I won't hide the scar. Not always. I'll carry the mark like made men carry their scars, with pride, and as a sign that there are things in life worth suffering for. I've never been prouder of you than I am now, Dad murmured. Mom kissed my forehead. I knew they both still worried about me becoming part of the familia, about submitting myself to even more danger, but that they were proud of the woman I was becoming meant the world to me.
Chapter 5. Maddox. I spent my last night before returning to New York in a tent on the side of the road, staring up at the night sky, my head whirring with too many thoughts. Saying goodbye to Gray today had made me wistful. It felt like a real goodbye instead of a see ya. Even if he and I kept up our contact, meetings would be few and far between. Working with Vitiello and being a pariah in parts of the biker world would make regular family reunions difficult. I'd miss him and parts of the life I'd led before, but none of those things called louder to me than my desire to hold Marcella in my arms again. Instead of heading to the Sphere to have a word with Vitiello first the next morning, or to the Vitiello mansion to see Marcella, if they even let me see her without a fucking appointment, I headed to the animal shelter, hoping to run across Growl. I wasn't sure why I felt a connection to the not very talkative man, but I did. Maybe because he too had been Vitiello's enemy and somehow managed to become part of the team. When I pulled up the familiar driveway, I noticed the newly installed surveillance cameras attached to tall poles immediately. I'd have bet my balls that there were motion detectors as well. And I knew why these were suddenly there. Because of me. And possibly the rest of Earl's fan club. But definitely me. I smiled wryly as I pulled up in front of the house and waved, knowing someone would see me. Pulling my helmet off, I got off my bike and immediately my eyes caught on long black hair. My heartbeat picked up with excitement. Fuck, I'd missed her. Marcella squatted in front of the fenced-in area where Growl kept some of the Rottweilers. I hadn't expected to see her here, and it was impossible to describe the flood of emotions that rushed through my body. Marcella turned toward the sound of the engine, and like the first time I saw her, I was in awe of her. I doubted that would ever change. Not just by her beauty, but by the way she moved. The way she held herself and the fire in her eyes. Damn it. Growl, who had been close by, pulled Marcella behind him as if I posed a danger, so I definitely hadn't been declared trustworthy yet. I couldn't tell if Growl was surprised to see me. Had he been in on spreading the information about Earl's murder? Marcella, however, wouldn't have it. She tore away from Growl's hold and rushed toward me. I grinned at her enthusiasm until I realized that she didn't look happy to see me. She looked royally pissed. Her black hair blew in the wind, and she was dressed in dark blue jeans, a simple white tee, and white sneakers. But even in those ordinary clothes, she knocked the breath out of me. The flicker of doubt I'd felt last night over everything I'd given up and would still be giving up for Marcella evaporated at once. She was worth it. She came to an abrupt halt right in front of me, her eyes flashing with fury.
4 days without a single word from you.
I reached for her, wanting a kiss, a touch, anything. But she swatted my hand away like a bothersome fly, her rage becoming even more potent.
You ran off. I thought you'd left for good. I thought you'd played with me.
Fuck, Snow White, I muttered. I fucking killed Earl for you. I betrayed my club for you. And you think I played with you? If that were the case, I'd be the worst player ever, because you won in every regard that matters. She searched my eyes, trying to gather my honesty, obviously. She still had some work to do for absolute trust, but I guess we both had.
Then why did you run off?
I had to make sure Gray was all right. Last time I saw him, he fled from your father and his soldiers shortly before I was knocked out.
Why couldn't you tell me that you were going to see your brother? I don't get why you had to run off without a word.
You have to admit that looks suspicious. I couldn't tell you where I went because someone had released information about me killing my uncle, and until I knew who that person was, I couldn't risk news about me looking for my brother making the rounds. It would have made things far more dangerous for him and me. She scoffed.
You could have told me. You can trust me. I wasn't the person who leaked the information in case that's what you're worried about.
The distance between us was driving me insane. I just wanted to pull her close and bury my nose in her throat. I know it wasn't you, and I trust you.
Not enough, obviously.
She looked away, back toward the kennels, her plump lips pressed together and dark brows pulled tight. I gritted my teeth. She had a point, but she didn't really trust me yet either. We haven't known each other for long yet, and most of the time we were enemies. It was strange how much I'd risked for this woman that I hardly knew, and yet I knew deep down that I'd do it again. Marcella's gaze could have frozen hell. She was seriously pissed, though I wasn't sure if she was only pissed at me.
Who was it? Who leaked the information about you?
I sighed. This was a conversation I hadn't been looking forward to. Marcella was absolutely loyal to her family, and attacking her brother wouldn't win me any bonus points, but I wouldn't lie to her. Your brother. Her spine stiffened, and she shook her head immediately.
Amo wouldn't go against Dad's orders, and Dad forbid the information to be leaked. Your information must be wrong. Amo couldn't have done it.
I raised my eyebrows. It was the reaction I had expected. Her trust in her father was simply too great. You sure? I'm certain he has plenty of reason to do it, and it's not like he has to fear repercussions. Your father would never kill your brother for a transgression like he would his soldiers.
But why would he?
Marcella's brows puckered in thought. I bet she found 100 reasons why her brother and the rest of her family wanted my old biker buddies to know I killed Earl. They might as well have put a target on my forehead. We'd been enemies for years. We're still enemies. And right now, I feared we'd stay enemies for a while to come. No matter what Marcella wanted.
I'll talk to him, she said resolutely.
I really wanted to settle things with Amo myself, but I might end up putting a bullet in his head, so it was probably for the best if Marcella handled him. I didn't want Amo fucking Vitiello to be the end of my relationship with Marcella. Grau had come closer during our conversation, and his alert gaze told me he was ready to interfere if necessary. I gave him a wry smile, which he didn't return, of course. Smiling didn't belong to his standard repertoire.
Everyone thought you'd run off because you wanted your freedom,
Marcella said in a much softer voice. You too? Marcella didn't react, only watched me closely.
Did that ever cross your mind?
I stepped closer. Fuck. I really needed to touch her or I'd go crazy. Even if it did, I'm here now, right? You're in my head and heart, and I can't be without you. Marcella shook her head.
If you think being with me means losing your freedom, it's probably better that we don't bother.
Was she fucking serious? I grabbed her neck and jerked her against me, kissing her fiercely. For a moment, she pressed herself against me, her lips softening against mine, parting, inviting me in. But then she shoved me away, glaring.
Do you want a goodbye, fuck?
Bullshit, Marcella. I want you in my life, every day. I don't need anything else. You really think a fuck would be worth getting that look? I nodded toward Growl, who watched me like a possible threat, making me feel really welcome in the familia. She still didn't seem happy. If possible, she looked even angrier.
If we want a chance, you need to realize that being with me doesn't mean you aren't free. I don't want to be your shackle, and you have to tell me everything. I won't be lied to, not even by omission.
I didn't fucking lie, I growled. Growl tensed. I gave him another wry smile at his twitchiness. As if I'd ever hurt Marcella. The only blood I'd spill would be his if he didn't stop grating on my nerves. She jabbed a finger against my chest.
You left without telling me anything.
I did, and I'm sorry for that. But it allowed me to settle things for good. Growl was talking on his phone. I didn't need to be psychic to know it was Luca on the other end.
With your brother?
I nodded. With him and a few of my biker brothers. Marcella tilted her head curiously.
Don't they see you as their enemy?
They are wary of me, that's for sure. But these are nomads. They left the club life exactly because they didn't like the way Earl handled things. So they didn't shed too many tears over his death. Growl moved even closer. I want a word with you. He motioned toward my truck. Marcella stepped back and I followed Growl. You shouldn't have come here again. You have to report to Luca first, especially before seeing Marcella. I chuckled. I'm not one of Luca's men. I can do whatever the fuck I want. My eyes kept returning to Marcella. She squatted in front of the fence and talked to a Rottweiler that sat right before her. I wasn't sure which made it harder to look away. The way her jeans accentuated her round ass, or the soft expression on her face whenever she talked to the dog. Women like her don't take bullshit from anyone, and they deserve the best. Growl rasped, following my gaze. You don't have to tell me that she deserves better. Everyone in the Familia thinks that. My wife deserved better when we first met, but I worked until I was worthy of her. That's my plan, I said. I'll help her and the Familia. Growl regarded me with stoic calm. You must report to Luca before coming here. If you want to be accepted, you have to follow the rules. Funny you say that, considering that some people within the Familia don't seem to follow the rules either, since information about Earl is making the rounds. Growl's expression didn't change. If he was surprised by the news, he hid it well. Or maybe he just didn't give a shit. He seemed like a man who only cared for his dogs and his wife that he kept mentioning. I'll go back to Marcella now. Report to Luca if you want. He didn't stop me, but his gaze followed me as I went over to Marcella. Growl's watchful eyes made me want to scratch my skin. Marcella briefly looked up, and seeing her on her knees in front of me gave me a flood of images I definitely didn't need right now. I got down on my haunches beside her. Is that Satan? The dog had familiar scars and watched me with intense brown eyes.
She has a new name, Marcella mused. I hated calling her Satan.
Dogs get used to their names. Marcella shrugged.
She likes her new name. I chose Santana for her because it sounds similar to her old name, but makes sure everyone knows she's a girl.
I chuckled. Of course. I doubted the dog cared if her name was for a boy or girl. Still, I was amazed by Marcella's care for the beast. She met my gaze.
Why are you watching me like that?
I could tell she was slowly warming up to me again, but she was still pissed and maybe confused because of her brother. Because I missed you, your beautiful face, and even the pissed look in your eyes. But most of all, your lips on mine. I gave her a teasing grin, but she cocked an eyebrow, blowing me off without blinking an eye. Damn it. This girl could be an ice queen.
I'm thinking about adopting her, but Dad would never allow me to bring a dog home. That's out of the question.
I glanced between Marcella and the Rottweiler. I'd grown up with these dogs, but I didn't really have much experience handling them. You really want a dog like that?
Growl knows how to socialize him. I can't explain it, but I feel a strange connection to her. She was locked in that cage too, and at first we both really didn't like the other.
Sounds like our love story. Marcella tossed me an indignant look, but at least she didn't deny the love story part. For a long time, we only looked at each other.
It's going to be strange being out in the world together.
I nodded, because it was exactly what I'd been thinking. I motioned at Santana. If you really want to adopt her, I could take her in once I have a place to live. You could come visit us or even move in. I startled at my own words. I couldn't believe I'd suggested for us to live together. Marcella stifled a smile, but then she became thoughtful.
That sounds great, about you taking her in. I think we should wait with the moving in part and all, give my family time to get used to you and us time to get used to us as well.
She paused.
We still have a long way to go. What happened, I worry it might affect a relationship. We don't trust each other fully yet, and there are still so many obstacles to overcome.
She released a small breath, looking almost scared. I cupped her face, leaning in. I want to be with you, Marcella. I want nothing more. Fuck. I think about you every fucking second of the day. If you want to take things slow, then we'll do that. No matter what lies ahead of us, we'll handle it. Even your brother wanting to have me killed. Marcella took a deep breath.
I hope you're wrong about him. Maybe your biker buddies lied to you to drive a wedge between us.
They don't play around. If they had a problem with me, they would have handled it directly. Probably with a bullet to the head. The people who have reason to get me killed through others are in your family, because they promised you to keep me alive. Marcella narrowed her eyes.
Now it's not just Amo, but my whole family wanting you dead?
Growl appeared by our side. Luca wants to talk to you in his office in the Sphere. I wasn't surprised Growl had talked to Luca yet again, and not about Luca wanting to see me either. I really didn't want to talk to Luca yet, especially not before I knew if he was involved with the information leak as well. Do you have a place for this dog yet? I asked, pointing at Santana. Growl shook his head. Too many dogs with too many issues. They never lived outside a kennel. They aren't broken in and aren't used to a family life. But she's still young, only 2. She can learn, right? With patience and time, she'll learn. Then I want to adopt her once I have a place to live. Marcella patted the dog through the fence with a small smile. Her hair had shifted to the side, and the horrible tattoo Earl had given her peeked through the material of her white shirt. Last night, after talking to Gray, I'd very briefly felt an ounce of guilt over having killed my uncle. But now, the feeling vanished into thin air, and was replaced by the same disappointment and anger I'd felt before his death. My eyes darted to her ear that had been covered by her hair until now. It was covered by a Band-Aid. Marcella caught my gaze, and her expression tightened before she focused on the dog once more. Growl interrupted the tense silence. There's a great furnished apartment in the building I lived before. Familia owned, I suppose? One of Luca's. I'll see if I can find a place of my own. Marcella rose to her feet.
I'm coming with you to the meeting with my father.
Luca asked me to bring you home, Growl said.
I'm going to the office,
Marcella said firmly. It was obvious that Growl didn't like it. I'll come with you.
All right,
Marcella said graciously.
But I'm driving with Maddox.
I can't allow that. Your father's orders were very clear. You're not to be alone with him right now. Marcella's eyes flashed with anger, and it was obvious she swallowed back a reply. She nodded once. I leaned in. Soon we'll have enough time to be alone. I'll show your father that he can trust me with you. Maybe you can use the time for a chat with your brother. Find out more about the information leak. I had a feeling confronting Luca first wouldn't lead to good results. Amo was still more boisterous and might let information slip more easily. She smiled gratefully, but I could tell that she was still pissed over her father's orders.
If you live in one of our apartment buildings, I'll probably have it easier to visit you later. My father won't allow me to go to a place he can't protect properly, especially after the kidnapping.
She was probably right. I really didn't want to live under Vitiello's watchful eyes, but for now, I just swallow my pride until he realized I didn't mean his daughter any harm. Come on, Growl said. We should hurry. Luca won't appreciate waiting. We don't want to make him angry, I said sarcastically, then winked at Marcella. She took my hand and stood on her tiptoes to whisper in my ear.
He'll try to make this as difficult for you as possible. He hoped that you'd run off, but now that you're back, he and the other men from my family are going to try to test you until you decide it's not worth it.
They can put me through hell all they want. It's a place I'm very familiar with, and I'll get burned gladly for you. But they should know I can give them hell as well.
I don't doubt it, she said, then pressed a fleeting kiss on my cheek before she followed Growl to his car.
Vitiello had no intention of handing his daughter over without a fight.
He was doing this to appease her after everything she went through,
probably hoping she'd grow tired of me once she was back in her old life.
Part of me worried the same,
but I'd fight tooth and nail to keep Snow White against her father and everyone else who intended to get in the way.
Chapter 6. Marcella. I was patting Santana's soft head when a bike pulled up in the driveway. Growl immediately positioned himself in front of me and shouted at the lanky teen to get a shotgun. My pulse quickened from fear, but then changed to excitement once I recognized Maddox. My heart beat so fast I felt almost dizzy. I'd sworn myself not to let my emotions run the show if I ever saw him again. But I realized I wouldn't be able to keep my promise. Maddox looked horrible with bruises and cuts all over his face and arms. He seemed frozen as he watched me. My excitement quickly morphed to fury. Maybe he looked so surprised because he never meant to see me again and didn't expect to see me here. Growl held my arm when I was about to step forward and charge at him. "Stay back. I don't trust him." What was Maddox doing here, of all places? If he'd really run off, his arrival at Growl's shelter didn't make the slightest sense. Our eyes met and his face pulled into a smile. My anger skyrocketed and my self-control slipped away. I shook Growl off and ran towards Maddox, glad I'd chosen sneakers for the trip. His smile quickly morphed to a look of confusion. Part of me wanted to fling myself into Maddox's arms. Luckily, my anger kept my silly heart at bay. But with every word from Maddox's mouth, my anger slipped away, at least toward Maddox, and my longing for him took its place. But I didn't give in. Not yet. I needed to know the truth about everything before I could allow my feelings to lead the show. Growl dropped me off at home but waited in the car in front of the house to give me a ride to the Sphere later. My conversation with Amo hopefully wouldn't take long, and afterward I could head to the meeting between Dad and Maddox and tell the latter that my brother hadn't been involved. His biker buddies had to be behind the information leak. I found Amo in our basement gym, where he was doing push-ups as I walked in. I never saw the appeal in working out underground. I preferred to see daylight while I was working out, but he was always in a sort of zone that probably had him blank out his surroundings completely. Like now, as he did push-ups with a pissed look as if the floor had personally insulted him. I leaned in the doorway, amused and impressed by his focus equally. I loved my brother like I loved Mom and Dad and Valerio. I didn't want to believe that he wanted to kill the man who was slowly carving out another place in my heart. When he pulled up in the driveway of the shelter today, the furious throbbing of my heart had left no doubt about my feelings. "It's kind of strange to admire your brother working out." I rolled my eyes. "Yuck, Amo, you're not my type." I walked into the room, wrinkling my nose at the heavy odor. "I'm impressed you noticed me, considering your staring contest with the floor. I'm a made man. It's essential that I notice people sneaking up on me, in case they want to ram a knife into my back. Speaking of knife in the back, I said, narrowing my eyes. I talked to Maddox. Loverboy's back, I heard. Amo muttered, not even trying to hide his disapproval. He pushed up on his feet and rubbed his hair with a towel. He's back, yes. And did you give him the ball kicking you promised, or did you wag your tail? Maddox knows I'm furious, don't worry. But the details of my conversation with him are between him and me. I won't discuss my relationship with you. Relationship? Amo scoffed. You really want to be with someone who disappears without a word for days at a time? Maddox had his reasons. Reasons that didn't fully convince me, but Amo didn't need to know that. He told me someone leaked the information about him killing his uncle. His fan club isn't really big, Amo said, dropping the towel unceremoniously on the bench before looking me straight in the eye. His expression was neutral, not giving anything away. He hadn't been a good liar, at least to me, before my kidnapping. But now I couldn't look through this newly hardened mask he'd adopted ever since. I'm more concerned about his list of mortal enemies within our family. Amo still only stared at me. It drove me crazy that I couldn't read him. Maddox's biker buddies told him you ratted him out. Ratting him out would require that he and I were on the same team, but we're not. Stop beating around the bush, Amo. You owe me the truth. Did you spread the news about Maddox killing his uncle? I did, he said simply. No regret, no apology, just the cold, hard truth. Shaking my head, trying to find my words and not lose myself in my fury and disappointment. You hoped that the other bikers would kill him if they found out. He smirked. That was my hope, yes. But as usual, the fucking bikers do nothing but disappoint. Don't you dare smile, I seethed. You promised me not to kill Maddox. I didn't promise you anything. And technically, I wouldn't have killed him if his biker buds ended him. That would have been on them. Because you told them the truth, Amo said with a shrug. White should own up to his own achievements. I slapped Amo's shoulder hard, but he only looked surprised. Does Dad know you went behind his back? I asked. Amo tilted his head. Why? Do you plan on ratting on me? No, but you should tell him. If you don't, he might put the blame on someone else and they could get killed for it. You obviously won't. Something in his expression set an alarm off in my head. Don't tell me Dad knew. Amo reached for the bottle on the bench and took a long gulp, obviously buying time. That was all the answer I needed. I can't believe it, I raged. I couldn't remember the last time I'd been this furious. Who else? Mateo, no doubt? Romero, Growl, maybe everyone except the helpless, stupid Vitiello princess? Spoiled princess. Amo corrected in a miserable attempt at humor. I turned my back on him, or I would have punched him. I wanted to scream in anger, but at the same time I felt like crying. Because yet again, things had been kept from me and decisions had been made without consulting with me. You won't ever try to have Maddox killed again, understood? My voice was ice cold, laced with fury and not as shaky as I felt inside. I slanted Amo a warning look. He regarded me for a long time, then he shook his head with a deep sigh. Listen to me for once and drop White before he ruins everything you worked for all your life, or before he breaks our family. You aren't someone I'd go to for relationship advice on any day of the year, but definitely not today. And you can believe me when I say that nothing can destroy our family except for ourselves. If we start lying to each other and losing our unwavering trust in each other. Because I did trust you absolutely, Amo, until today. Amo looked seriously taken aback by my words. You can trust me absolutely, Marcy. I'd die for you. When I walked into the biker's den, I was ready to die to save you from these bastards. Unwanted tears pressed against my eyeballs. I had seen the truth of these words in Almo's eyes that day. And Maddox was ready to die for me as well. That's his only redeeming quality. I shook my head. Please, try to overcome your hatred for him. For me? I didn't wait for his reply, and instead turned on my heel and headed upstairs toward Grell's car. I plopped down in the passenger seat. Let's go to the Sphere. Before Growl could pull away from the curb, Amo appeared on the sidewalk, still only in gym shorts and a new shirt. He knocked at the back door, and Growl unlocked it so my brother could slip in. I'm coming with you. We should figure this out as a family. Oh, will Mom and Valerio be there as well? I asked sarcastically. Mom didn't know, so don't be mad at her. Of course she didn't. Dad often kept things from Mom to protect her so she wouldn't get upset. Most of the time, Mom figured things out anyway, but kept Dad in the belief that she was clueless as he wanted her to be. But I didn't want to play that game. I didn't need protection from any truth. I could handle anything, and today I'd finally make Dad realize it. Dad saw me as another version of Mom, another fragile female to protect. And while I loved Mom and was glad for the traits I'd inherited from her, many aspects of my personality were Dad. He didn't want to see it. But he needed to if I really wanted to have a chance living an autonomous life and becoming part of the business. And to be with Maddox. Especially be with Maddox.
Maddox. I parked in the back alley beside the Sphere and got off my bike. I wasn't sure what Luca's orders were, but I felt a hint of wariness as I approached the bouncer at the entrance. His stance became alert the moment he spotted me. I hoped Marcella's confrontation with her brother wouldn't take too long. For one, I wanted to see her again, and I really wasn't looking forward to a one-on-one with Luca Vitiello. Even if I hadn't mentioned anything to Marcella, I had my suspicions about her old man's involvement. He wanted me dead, and was looking for ways to have me killed without pulling the trigger himself. The bouncer said something in the direction of an earpiece at his ear, then nodded. The boss is expecting you in his office.